Are you a motherless daughter? What if we told you we have 20 years worth of truth treasures, pearls of wisdom, and diamonds of hope to help you with your mother loss? We do, and we share all things mother loss on Nurturing Words, Voices of Experience, a podcast by the Motherless Daughters Ministry. Give yourself some self-care and listen as we discuss grief, regret, anger, redemption, closure, and so much more.
Hello, I'm Gladys Bell, your host. Today, Gina Ellis, one of our blog writers, shares a vivid childhood memory that even now serves to bring peace to her environment. Then we get some tips on how to maintain a measure of peace amid chaos. And before we leave you, we'll hear very candid thoughts from our podcast administrator, Sarah Lynn Wells, on how she puts that information into practice. Let's listen in.
My childhood sanctuary was my grandparents' home. I walked their land exploring nature. I danced under the weeping willow tree. In the kitchen, Grandma's eyes twinkled as we chattered across the table or indulged in a game of cards. In Grandpa's workshop, his tools filled the space along with the rich smell of sawdust. Their home was also my landing place to recover from frequent bouts of pneumonia and other illnesses over the years. I lay on the couch recovering in the quiet, listening to the ticking clock. Tick, tock, tick, tock, tick, tock, breathing to the rhythm. Grandpa's large hands mastered the art of woodworking. He made clocks with rich wood and fancy hands as a hobby. Every room had one of his clocks. All day, Grandpa's clocks ticked on, helping me breathe as I recovered. Tick, tock, tick, tock, tick, tock, safe, breathe, safe, relax, safe, be. During COVID-19 pandemic, it changed everything. The world was chaotic. The new normal was working from home instead of among coworkers. We arranged our priorities and figured out new ways to stay connected. We rethought old habits to protect our health. This day has been full, productive, and stressful, yet I remain unhurried. Tick, tock, tick, tock. I breathe again, relaxed. This inexpensive clock sounds much like the one from my grandparents' home. It brings me unexpected peace. It keeps me grounded. The earth still blooms, people still walk their dogs, air still feels my breath. I have a place and a purpose in the world. Like the home of my grandparents, my faith and the Motherless Daughters Ministry community continue to provide me space to just be. What item or sensory experience brings you to a place of comfort, peace, and hope? Here are a couple of my favorite verses from the Bible that provide me comfort. I pray that you find some inspiration in them as well. Proverbs 18:10, the name of the Lord is a fortified tower. The righteous run to it and are safe. In peace I will lie down and sleep. For you alone, Lord, make me dwell in safety. Psalm 4:8. In addition to the fact that I wrote this blog during the time of COVID and the pandemic and high stress and so much going on in our society over the years of 2020 and 2021, I also, as I talked with other motherless daughters through the ministry, through working and volunteering on the different teams, one thing that came up often, whether it was in a class or just amongst the community, was this question about who did God have in your life that did provide you with nurturing words? In my life, as I already described in the blog, My grandparents' home, and in particular my grandma, she was definitely a source of nurturing. The other women in my life that God brought into my life, whether it was the neighbor whose family eventually took me to church where I was led to Christ, or my aunt who was an example of a single woman living on her own and strong and confident, or a friend that did have a nurturing mother and knew how to be a friend. All of those people God placed in my life to provide me the nurturing words and wisdom that I needed. And so, while we definitely need to continue on our healing journeys as motherless daughters, whether you've lost your mom to death and just are extremely grieved to be missing that nurturing and wisdom, or you just didn't have that in your life for some reason, I encourage you to both reflect on who God has placed in your life and what you did gain, and where and who is it that you are going to seek that out. The Motherless Daughters Ministry is a great place with wonderful people where you can find a tribe of women like that in any number of different courses. It could be simply you're going to continue listening to this podcast from wherever you're at, be it in a car, on a walk, on a drive. Wherever it is you listen to podcasts, you can listen to nurturing words here from people who know and understand. The important part is that you stay on the journey and that you understand that it is a lifelong journey. So I just wanted to close with an opportunity for you to hear more from our ministry. Thank you for listening today.
We're going to take a short break to tell you about a resource, and then we'll get right back to the podcast.
Meeting where you want to meet. At Motherless Daughters Ministry, we make it easy to connect with other women who understand your loss experience. Whether you have experienced loss by death or emotional absence, you can hear nurturing words of experience in our podcast. Stay connected and supported with our weekly email and Monday support groups. Looking for individual coaching with a supportive Christian guide? A free 15-minute coaching consultation may be where to start. We help motherless daughters explore how mother loss has shaped their lives. Education equals empowerment. Empowerment contributes to emotional health. Visit our website at motherlessdaughtersministry.com to learn more.
This post was written during the height of the pandemic, but I think there is so much we can still relate to. Even though things have returned to somewhat normal now 4 years later, there are still so many who struggle with feeling disconnected. Loneliness is a real issue that affects so many, particularly women. Adding in factors like mother loss make us even more susceptible. Then when we add in stress, grief, a fast-paced world, and concerns in the news, sometimes it can all feel like too much. I love the way Gina talks about finding a rhythm and finding things that bring us peace and calm. I have 2 young boys. One is still in a stage of learning about big emotions, and when he gets overstimulated, it often results in a tantrum. My older son is not at that same stage, but learning more about the world around him and suddenly having a lot of new anxiety and fears. We spend a lot of time in our house discussing ways to deal with these big emotions and relax and find peace. I often explain to them that we can have a toolbox filled with different tools we can use when we are feeling big emotions that can help us to relax. Not every tool will work every time, and sometimes we may need to use a few different tools all at the same time. But we can use them to find peace when life feels really overwhelming or confusing. Some of the tools we talk about are breathing exercises, praying to God, reading and reciting scripture, listening to a favorite song, doing some physical exercises, doing sensory play, counting to 10, or drawing a picture of how we feel. To me, sometimes it's easy to explain to them how to help them find peace, but it's another thing when it comes to me and big emotions I'm feeling. Being upset about the wrong kind of popsicle or nervous about a storm for them feels manageable compared to the big things I'm worrying about or upset about. But the truth is that to them, it feels just as big as the thing I'm upset about. I need to take my own advice and the advice Gina is sharing and work on creating my own set of tools that I can use when life gets hard to find peace. Some things that I have found that have helped me are focusing on my breathing or trying to be present in the moment. I had a therapist who taught me a trick to help if I'm feeling overwhelmed or on the verge of a panic attack. The trick is to look around the room and be present where I am in the moment. Look for something that seems like it might have an interesting smell and try to imagine that scent. Find something that might have a unique taste and picture that. Look for something that has a unique texture and focus on trying to imagine what it feels like. Some other things, of course, are reading scripture, reciting scripture, praying, and calming music. Those things are so important to me as well. I have scriptures saved in my phone or written in places I'll see them that help give me peace when I'm feeling overwhelmed. I also find that a long walk can be so important, especially after a long day during the summer of managing fights between my boys and their high energy and so many questions. Sometimes I just need to be alone for a few minutes and be out in nature and move my body by walking. I also find comfort and peace in a repetitive activity that takes up my concentration and gives me a purpose in the moment, whether it's puzzles or Lego kits or more recently even crocheting. There's something about an orderly task that helps bring me a momentary sense of peace and control even when things seem a bit chaotic around me. These tips may not work for you, but it is important to find what brings you peace. Most importantly, ways you can feel the true peace that comes from God. Community can be a big part of that peace in your life, and we would love to have you be part of our community. Whether that's with a support group, a course, volunteering, or just commenting and engaging on our social media or blog. We know you will find comfort by meeting other women struggling with the same things you are going through. We are praying for a peaceful week for everyone.
Thank you for joining us here at Motherless Daughters Ministry. If you need more nurturing words, we encourage you to have a listen to other episodes of this podcast. Don't forget to hit the subscribe or follow button so you can join us again next time.